Coach, you had a good conversation with Jackson Collier earlier this week, and I thought that story that we put at the top of our open about you buying the national championship shorts was cool, but I also learned that you have been to Arkansas back in 2008. What do you remember about your first experience inside of Bud Walton Arena?
Well, first off, Ty and Tommy, thanks for having me on. I'm excited and fired up to be a Razorback. Back then in 2008, I don't think I was as fired up walking into Bud Walton Arena. Again, I was there with UTSA with Brooks Thompson, who was an NBA player, and we walked in the gym, and Rob Evans was an assistant, and my former head coach at Arizona State, and John Pelfrey was the head coach. And I remember the one thing, our one goal was don't shoot a lot of long threes because we don't want them to get out and transition and get the fans going. And, of course, our guys didn't want to follow the scouting report. And to our demise, the Razorbacks started hitting dunks, layups, wide-open threes in transition. And it was a long night for the Roadrunners that night.
Coach, one of the things that Muss has talked about that you've touched on as well is balancing egos in the locker room. And Arkansas has a lot of talent coming in that I know you're really excited to coach. They have had a lot of talent returning on J.D. Notae, Devo Davis, Jalen Williams, just to name a few. Just for what you've learned from Eric and just your time on the coaching world, how have you gone about navigating egos in a basketball locker room and putting the team first?
It might be the hardest thing right now in basketball, whether it's professional, college, all the way down to high school level. But Coach Musselman, that's probably his trademark, and one of his greatest skills is managing that, making sure that people know their role definition. Winning is number one, talking about not having an ego. The style of play is huge in terms of passing the ball 200-plus times a game, playing winning basketball, and really going back to the centerpiece of, are you going to play extremely hard, trying to recruit players that have pride in their community, in terms of, being a Razorback, being in Fayetteville, and being in Northwest Arkansas. But really it comes back to every day coach having personal conversations with them about what they're doing well, what they need to improve on, and making sure that they know that this is how you're going to play and we're going to play to be, again, the most successful program that we can be.
You mentioned about players knowing their role. I'm sure it's the same with the staff. And as you work through the process of rejoining Coach Musselman, kind of give us an idea what your role is going to be and how you'll fit into this staff that's going to have a couple of changes here. What will we be seeing you specializing in here over the coming days and weeks?
Well, I think that success, does bring change. People are attracted to people that win, and Coach Musselman's assistants and staff have been able to be a part of that, and people have been able to accept other positions. So that's always a part of transition at the end of the season, just like it is across America with players going to different schools. For me, it's really jumping in with our current student athletes, mentoring them, developing them. We'll be back on the floor here to start in June. So building the relationship with sweat equity, getting on the floor, watching film with them, developing that. And then obviously 1A and 1B is now trying to find great new student athletes across the country, and especially in our backyard here in Arkansas, recruiting the best of the best. And having had experience with Coach and his recruiting philosophy, I'll be able to seamlessly jump right into that. And then the last part is, again, trying to integrate myself in the community, get to know everybody here, and make sure we help in any way to the community, and building a gap and continue to do what Coach does, which is energizes the community and fire everybody up.
Coach, you've been at this a while, 17 seasons under your belt. I'd love your take on how the transfer portal is changing the job and changing the game as you've seen this become more of a part of college basketball. What changes, good and bad, are you seeing with the transfer portal now being so prominent in college basketball?
Well, sorry to cut you off. When I started with Coach Musselman, he was really the first to, him and Coach Hoiberg possibly, you could say, were two of the biggest influencers in the transfer portal and using it to their advantage and changing rosters from year to year. I think the thing that has changed right now is because everybody can play right away, what you're seeing is there's a lot of rosters that are filled with 13 players. And obviously you and I, we all know you're not going to play 13 guys in those games. So now what teams are getting into the trouble with is how do you manage that roster? Like you said in your first question to me is, what do you do with the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th man that's not playing? Do you have a development program that allows you to develop younger players along with transfers. I think Coach Musselman right now has done a phenomenal job of taking what we did in Nevada, both from high school student athletes that we recruited, like some of the 5-stars that we recruited from out of high school, and then also taking a transfer and making sure there's a good balance of depth, balance, and position. It may not be perfect in the classes because right now it's going to be hard to have balance in classes because they can transfer right now and play, right away. So rosters are changing, turnover is crazy, but really it's the balance of what you need in each roster spot, and then managing your bench.
Coach Gus Argenal with us here on the Morning Rush. Coach, you brought up recruiting a little bit, and one of the things that I think is cool when you walk into the Eddie Sutton practice facility, you got the legends. You got Corliss, you got Sidney, but you also got some current players who are taking charges, who are doing the grunt work, the buy-in stuff. How important is it for the next couple guys that you guys plan on getting, and just the guys in the locker room, to buy into Eric Musselman's system and do it on both ends of the floor?
Well, I think that everybody here that watches Coach Musselman and watching during the tournament, he is an emotional coach that gets fired up and wants his players to. I mean, that's the best part of college basketball, is having the emotion, the pageantry, the fans being a part of it, and we have to have guys that believe in that are going to dive on every loose ball. They're going to be the hardest playing team, not only in the SEC but in the country. Take the most charges, run after, long closeouts that they probably can't even get to, but give an effort that everybody in the stands gets excited about. And what everybody's talking about right now is Bud Walton and how, fired up and wild and crazy it could be this year. But I don't think it'll be that unless we have young men that are willing to sacrifice, in terms of their role, but also just their effort. And that's where the summer comes in, going into the fall, is getting them in great shape, making them understand what we do on a daily basis, the work ethic. And really, that's just a Coach Musselman thing, is he's going to outwork everybody. And from us as assistant coaches, we have to take that lead, and then down to the players and all the way to our managers and GAs.
Coach, we brought up that you've been here once for a game, but you've mostly spent your time recruiting in the western part of the United States. The 2022 in-state class is loaded. You've already got one guy committed, Joseph Pinion, out of Morrilton, not just in Arkansas, but from your perspective, Coach, how much of a transition is it going to be from you, from really recruiting out west the majority of your career to now being kind of more in the south and the southeast?
It's a great question. And luckily, when I was at Nevada, we recruited all over the country. We were in every house, and I was on, I would say, more campuses and talking to student athletes and their families than as many people in the country. I was also lucky to be at Rice University, where we recruited nationally and internationally. So I've been in every state recruiting-wise, but obviously in my last 2 years being at Cal State Fullerton in Nevada, being a West Coast university, that's my most recent. But the transition is seamless because of what Coach Musselman has started. When you have young men that are in the state that are excited about what we're doing, it's really about making them understand that you're there to build a relationship with them. And again, I've jumped right in on that. And nobody's going to work harder with our recruits in Arkansas and in our region than we are. And again, we're going to make that our focus, is our backyard, and keeping our strong fences here and keeping everybody home. Now,
Coach, you played at UC Davis, right?
Don't bring up those playing days. It's not pretty.
Now, but here's where I'm headed. I'm reading through the bio here, and I see your lovely wife Hannah played at UC Davis, and she was it's listed as standout. I didn't see standout by your name, so I'm just wondering who wins the pickup game in the driveway between you two.
Well, you just got the biggest fan out there in Huntington Beach, probably listening on the radio right now. We have two boys that are 11 and 9. She was definitely the athlete. I was more of the passer, distributor. I hope my boys get her athleticism. I think they're starting to. I was a passer and get out of the way, get the ball to a guy like Devo Davis, and I just go stand in the corner. So I was the passer. I was not great. I have one great night where I threw the ball to a couple guys and made some shots. I still hold the assist record with 13 in the game. So I'll take that one to the bank.
So I'm taking that as she's going to win the game of horse or the pickup game.
She's a defender, so I can't get by her. That's the problem. I'm getting a little bit old, even though I'm 39.
Well, I'm sure Bo and Ace, your two boys, are going to have some great coaching along the way.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I told Coach they like to fish, and they've been fishing out on the Pacific Ocean on the beach, and now they're getting ready to trade it get on some rivers out here in Arkansas. So they're excited.
Oh, we know some good ones.
They're going to love that. Well, Coach, before we let you go, so your wife has a basketball background, and I'm assuming both your sons play. I know they wanted Arkansas to win the national championship when they filled out their bracket. So your wife knows what the hours are like and how much time you're having to spend on the phone talking with recruits, game plans, whatever it may be. You've coached alongside Eric Musselman in Nevada. What are your hours like, just from a day-to-day, week-to-week perspective, especially during basketball season? Just give our audience a glimpse into what your schedule and hours look like during basketball season.
Well, I think the hours are different. In terms of the office, the office is not that much different. There may be days when we're in there at 6 and we leave later because of a Zoom call that we have at 7 p.m. or something like that with recruiting. Obviously, during the season, practice, watching film after the season, it's a long day and it's constantly going. I think the biggest point of emphasis is your day's never really done because you can always recruit. And that's the one thing that people don't take into account is you are always on the phone. And again, my wife actually, it's so funny. I've been doing this will be my 18th year, and she'll be like, why are you calling your friends and talking to them about things like that? I'm okay with you being at dinner here and calling a recruit, but we can't just be talking to your buddies right now about what's going on. So she's so dialed into this and understands it. And having worked for Coach Musselman, the biggest thing is that we're making sure that we hit all the points of emphasis. Like you said, recruiting is number one, bringing in great young men here. And so that's a constant. But when we get to season, it really doesn't shut down. You're going to be constantly working to improve, and that's as we prepare now. We have a little bit, probably right now is the most dead time you have in the program because they're finishing on finals, and again, we're not allowed to work them out right now. And so once we get back in June, though, it becomes summer training camp, and we're back at it. But really, the piece of it, like going back to your point, is the recruiting, being on the phone, and making sure that we're constantly hitting not only prospective student athletes, but the people that are around our family right now in terms of the current players.
Yeah, I'm guessing the recruiting side of it's kind of like playing defense as a player. If you don't recruit as a coach, you're not going to play. You're not going to stay. And if you don't play defense for much, you're not going to play much.
There's no doubt about it. It's number one, along with scouting, and I know Coach Rude's got our schedule going, so we'll be dialed into all of that, but we're not going to let you down with the recruiting.
Coach, we really appreciate your time this morning. Coach Gus Argenal, newest assistant with the Razorback men's basketball program. Coach, happy to have you here in Northwest Arkansas and Fayetteville, and excited about what the 2021-2022 season has to unfold.
Thank you for having me on. I can't wait to meet you guys in person.
Hey, when them boys are ready to go fishing, let us know. We got a few spots for them.
They're all yours. You're taking them for the day then. That's done.
We can do that.
Take them in. We're going to gas.
Hey, I got an 11 and a 9-year-old too, so I know what I feel your pain, brother. Feel your pain.
I appreciate it. Thanks again for having me on.
See you.